Hello, welcome to Spotlight, a ray of creative sunshine on a cloudy island.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, you might already have heard of a special outdoor performance of Midsummer Night's Dream later this year. Now we hear how you can get involved as workshops and auditions are announced. Talk to the Manx Bard about some lunar poetry under the moon. And speak to the artist behind the wonderful pictures on a new set of stamps just released to celebrate the Chinese New Year. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you might be involved in, you're planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. Poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, ceramic. We haven't had many ceramicists for a while. Get involved, why not? Just drop me a line, spotlight@manxradio.com, or Howard Kane with an E at manxradio.com. I'd love to hear from you and we'd love to feature you. So, at the back end of last year, we heard from the chair of the Manx Amateur Dramatic Association, Sharon Walker, about a very special outdoor production of Shakespeare's classic comedy A Midsummer Night's Dream, being staged outside as a promenade performance later this year as part of the 75th anniversary celebrations of Madfer. And it's going to be in the grounds of Government House. How cool is that? Well, she's now back with her director's hat on. She's directing the whole thing to tell us how you can get involved with the production and learn more about the Bard.
We're at a really, really exciting point, actually, Howard. You alluded there before, obviously, we've got our auditions, which will be in March, on the 22nd and 23rd of March. But before that, we have a series of mastering Shakespeare workshops that will be held in the schools at the end of February to cover off all aspects of Shakespeare, whether it's text and character development to the movement on stage with all the GCSE and A-level English students on the island. So we're really excited to be able to offer that. But then on the Saturday, there's an opportunity to have a full-day workshop just on Midsummer Night's Dream for anybody who wants to prepare for the auditions later on in that month.
And you're trying to attract as not just the usual suspects, if I can call them that, people from societies, and there are lots of excellent actors and actresses around the Isle of Man, but maybe people who haven't done much before? Absolutely,
and also people who perhaps want to come back to acting. So the purpose of the workshops in the school is absolutely to inspire young people to get involved with local theatre and particularly fall in love with Shakespeare, just as I did when I was at school. But I have a lot of people who say to me, I did Shakespeare in school years ago, or I did acting in school and I've never done it again since. And this will be an opportunity for people to just come and try it again and fall in love with it again.
So you're trying to sort of quell those demons, because you're right, I think particularly with Shakespeare, some people love it, but other people are almost sort of scared of it. They're thinking, Shakespeare.
Absolutely that. And that's why we've decided to go with The Dream, because it's such a fantastic story. And it's one of Shakespeare's best comedies, and you can just have a lot of fun with it and just be a little bit silly. That's the whole point. It's called a play for a reason. We want people to come along, play around with it with us and enjoy the whole experience. And we are really, really lucky because we've got some fantastic sponsorship from the Arts Council this year as part of their Extraordinary Events Fund. And that means that we're able to bring over Shakespeare practitioners for the workshops and to support the production themselves. So we have a gentleman called Edward Bennett who has performed in several seasons at the RSC and curated a number of open-air Shakespeares for the Chichester Festival. So he'll bring an absolute wealth of experience with him to support us. And then we have a couple of practitioners, Phoebe and Luke, who have worked with Edward over a number of years, who will be working in the schools with me. So it's a very exciting time for us.
It does sound great, I must admit. Now, if people can't make, because obviously people have busy lives these days around the place, but if they can't, for example, make the workshop on the 1st, can they still go and audition anyway?
Absolutely, absolutely. All the information is on our website. We've got a special page just for Midsummer Night's Dream at www.madford.im. It will be over 2 days, so and the auditions won't be a stand up and do a monologue. We'll be auditioning in the groups, so there'll be auditions for the lovers, auditions for the mechanicals or the fairies and so on.
So nothing too daunting then?
Nothing too daunting. Nobody has to learn anything. be familiar with the passages that we want people to perform during those 2 days. But absolutely, the whole idea is that the actual whole experience will be an iterative process throughout the whole rehearsal period. So nothing is set. We have a concept of the production being set in the 80s with some real Manx twists to it. But we don't know how it's going to be yet, because we want the people who are going to be in it to be involved in shaping it for us, because I think that way they'll really feel like they're being involved in something very, very special.
So I was going to say a cast of thousands. Do you have any idea in your mind sort of how many people might be involved in the production?
It really all depends. I mean, we're very much of the mind that if somebody wants to be involved, then come and be involved, whether you want a large part or a small part. If you just want to be involved, you can be involved. That's the joy of us putting the production on in the grounds of Government House. We're not limited by size of stage. So if we have 50 fairies, then we have 50 fairies. If we have some additional mechanicals who help along with the play, then that's what we'll do. I really want this to be a real community initiative. We're raising money for hospice as well as a by-result of this production as well. So it's a real benefit for everybody.
And then just in terms of sort of casting forward, so if you excuse the slight pun there, if people come along, they go and audition for whatever part they might be interested in, they get cast, they're in it. What sort of commitment are we talking to them? Because obviously rehearsal period and such like, going through the summer before the actual production itself.
So we'll be rehearsing from the May through to the beginning of September when the production is on. So it gives everybody a bit of an opportunity to look at their words and the part before we actually start rehearsals. But because of the play is split in such distinct areas, we're looking at rehearsing that way. So we'll look at people's availability and we will rehearse according to that. Now, Edward is coming back once a month for a weekend every month through that rehearsal period, so we need people to be involved with that. But again, like all of these things, the commitment can be as big or as small as you want. If you want a large part, then you probably need to be more committed than if you are literally coming on and being a fairy.
And we've mentioned this before, but there's a musical element to particularly some of the transitions, because it's just promenade performance, as it were, and moving around, the sort of music there, so the whole thing flows. Absolutely.
So, as I mentioned before, we have this 80s theme that we're working towards. So we're very lucky that we have Rock Vannon on board, who are going to come and do some 80s power ballads for us in the Athens scenes, and that transition then into the fairy scenes will be supplied by music that we're working with David Kilgannon on. And then our mechanicals, we are very fortunate again to have Minds Ashanti, who are going who are going to come and help support that. And what's really lovely about that is actually some of the Shakespeare text you guys are going to be setting to Shanty music, which I think will be really special.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to the whole thing. It does sound something really a bit special for this 75th anniversary, and as you say, actually up there in the grounds of Government House, by courtesy and permission of His Excellency Sir John Lorimer. Are we going to tempt him, you think, into the actual production?
It's one of the conditions when he first suggested that we first agreed to let us put on a play. He did say the only caveat was that he had a small part. So we have, I think we have something
Have you got something earmarked?
Earmarked. He doesn't know it yet. I have to get his agreement, but he's the plan is to try and get him in on the action at some point.
Sounds terrific. Just again then, so anyone hearing this thinking, you know what, sounds quite interesting, where do they go? Best thing to go to the Madford site?
So go to the Madford site. The audition registration form is there. All the audition pieces are there. There's information about the workshops and what have you as well. Also, if you have any other questions, our contact details are on there too. Just come and have fun with it. Don't be frightened. Don't be scared. Just come and enjoy the experience.
Sounds good, doesn't it? Come on, why not give it a go? And if you do, I'll see you there.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
Now, from the Bard to the Manx Bard, the 10th and current Manx Bard, in fact, Jordan Kenyuk, who dropped by recently to get all moony. No, I don't mean that sort of moony. I mean, she came in to tell me about chances for poets to perform under the moon, or at least the sizable scale model of which will be installed in Peel Cathedral next month. The Museum of the Moon runs from the 9th of February through to the 2nd of March. It's a remarkable art installation by the artist Luke Jerram, who brought us the Gaia Earth at St Thomas's last year, of course, and showcases a 7-foot sculpture of the moon. And it's going to be accompanied by a series of events that explore its significance across cultures and impact on sustainability. Jordan told me more about the poetic side of things.
Yeah, so we've got 3 events running on the 22nd of February. Under the Moon, Luke Jerram's fantastic artwork being displayed in Peel Cathedral. So we've got 2 writing workshops on, one at 2:30 in the afternoon, and that's for people that are new to writing, new to poetry.
Yeah, what day is that? That's on the
22nd of February.
Yep.
And then we've got another workshop that's on just after the one for the newer poets, and that's for more experienced poets. We've called it veterans, but not in the sense of people being aged, but in the sense of having more experience. So that one is on at 5 p.m. And then in the evening, following the workshops in the afternoon, we have the Night of Poetry Under the Moon, which is a poetry open mic, obviously moon themed, and it's free entry. It should be a fantastic night. We're hoping for a good turnout. All moon themed poems to be read first, but all poetry is welcome, and there'll be refreshments provided, but feel free to bring your own drinks. It's not a licensed venue, sadly.
Ah, right, okay, yeah. So bring your flask of Horlicks or
sure.
or whatever the case may be. Something along those
Horlicks
lines.
or Irish coffee, whatever you fancy. But yeah, hopefully we're hoping for a great turnout. It's me and Stacey Astle running the workshops, and then the open mic is a collab between the Manx Bard, Manx Lit Fest, and the Isle of Man Poetry Society. So it's great to have everybody working together to put on these events. It's been fantastic.
And Stacey's the first Manx Bard, I think, wasn't it?
Stacey's the first, and I'm the 10th, so it's all come full circle.
That's however many, 10 years, yes, gosh, that's the main thing. So do you sort of see, or have you, since you've been in your bardic role, do you sort of collaborate with many of the other bards?
I try to. Obviously, we're all very busy and important, as you can understand.
So
we've all got very
once
full...
a bard, always a bard.
Obviously, once you bard, you bard. But no, we've all got very full schedules, but we do communicate as much as we can just to update everyone on what we're doing. And Stacey's been super, super helpful organising these workshops. They're £5 per ticket, but all the proceeds go directly to Manx Lit Fest. So you'll be funding the fantastic catalogue of events I'm sure they'll have on in 2025 for their Lit Fest, which will be great. And she's been working on some great initiatives to inspire some great work and some funny and thought-provoking stuff, so it should be really good.
And it's nice to have that split, as you say, the sort of the veterans, as you were saying, but basically people, cause I think it's always a problem if you see poetry workshop, and there might be people, as you say, who do write poetry for their own amusement at home, but they've never performed, they've never gone out, they've never published anything. They're going to be nervous and think, oh God, I can't go along to this because it's going to be full of, it's going to be full of John Betjemans everywhere. They're all going to be really experienced and they're going to sort of sneer at my poultry efforts, but that's not the case at all.
No, it's definitely not. I think we want to make it a safe space for people to just dip their toe in if they are nervous, because it's completely understandable if you've never written to a theme or written to prompts before, or in fact read your work out in front of other people. It can be very daunting. So just to know you're in the same boat as everybody else, I do think is a nice comfort to people who are maybe trying it for the first time. So we just want it to be as welcoming as possible, and then obviously give the more experienced poets maybe a bit more of a challenge. To stretch the creative muscles, as you say.
And that is it, isn't it? You're right. It's that toeing the water, particularly for the first time of reading out your own work, is. Yeah, it is nerve-wracking. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's sort of it's a bit nerve-wracking because you never quite know. I mean, obviously you like it. Who you've written it yourself, you'll enjoy it, and it means something to you, and it can be right from the heart, of course. And then if you reading it out in front of other people, you think, you just don't quite know how people are going to react. And if you're in a good environment, then you're always going to get good feedback. Well,
this is the great thing about the poetry open mics, is that everyone is so open to all types, all themes of poetry that there would never be an instance where you would write about a theme and you get people raise their eyebrows and go, "Ooh, wow!" Like it's not like that at all. The poetry scene on the island is super, super inclusive, so it's great to see so many topics and themes being targeted at the open mics over here. It's really, 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 really refreshing.
That's really nice. And you're saying that with regards to the moon, obviously, if people have got a moon-themed poem, I suppose that's ideal when you're performing under Luke Jerram's work there. But it doesn't have to be a lunar theme.
No, it doesn't. We're gonna prioritise the moon-themed poems. The doors open at 7. And that's to give everyone a chance to come in, you know, admire the artwork, have a little look around, grab some of the food, and sort of, you know, sit yourself down, prepare yourself. And then the readings are due to begin at 8. So we're doing the moon-themed poems first, but as I say, all poetry is welcome. That's one thing I have asked the other bards to do, and they've been very, very helpful. I asked the other bards to write a moon-themed poem, and we're going to also have a poetry wall, which is going to display the poems that the bards have written and anyone else I can rope in, including you, actually, H. If you'll pull your finger out and write me a poem, it'll go on the poetry wall.
I will. I've actually started. I have started one.
Have you?
Started one, yeah. But it's sort of one of those poems that got so far, and then it sort of ground to a halt. I'm thinking, do I go in a different direction now? I don't know.
Knowing you, I feel like it might be a bit blue, this poem, if it's a mention of a moon.
There's the thought. I can't think of anything moony, blue moon. Yeah, blue moon. That'd be a good title for a poem. And how's it been going? Because you're several months in now. I mean, how has the bardic role been for you now that you're sort of you're happily settled in the role and clearly well known now, and been doing the piece in the paper and been all their events in the library? How have you been finding it?
I think it's been really, really motivational for me as a poet, as a writer. It has prompted me to write a lot more than probably I would have previously, which has been great. And I have been quite busy, really. I mean,
Good.
I mean, it's nice to be busy. It's nice to be wanted.
Yeah.
One of my projects, obviously, the Bard on the Board initiative that I think everyone's probably heard of now and is tired of me harking on about. You'll be glad to know that that's going to be replicated in other areas of the island. So I'm hoping by the end of the year, or by the end of my tenure in August, I'm hoping for a board in Castletown. I'm currently working on that with the commissioners. And then hopefully one in Peel and one in Ramsey. So I'm hoping for one in all 4 corners of the island. I'm not sure where I could plonk one in Foxdale Central, maybe in the Baltic.
Well, you never know. You'd probably get something interesting there.
Well, I'm sure I'd get some interesting poems in on the board in the Baltic. But yeah, that's my remaining plans for this year. But yeah, I'm super excited about the Moon event. That's been great to collaborate with the other sort of, you know, poetry associations on the island, get everyone together doing that. And I am working on a couple more things, but I'll have to come back and talk to you about them another time when they're more finalised at the end of the pipeline.
I will finish that poem, I promise. Now, not only is the moon forthcoming, but so is the Chinese New Year, 2025 being the year of the snake. To celebrate this, Isle of Man Post has released a special series of stamps featuring the wonderful artwork of Joe Davies, who you might remember actually did last year's stamps on the same theme.
Yeah, I did. Last year was the year of the dragon, and I was pleased to say that they were really well received, not just here but in China and Hong Kong, where a lot of the collectors buy them. So I think because of the success, I've been invited back to do them again this year, and it's always a great honour because obviously the new year only comes round once a year, and the Lunar New Year is a big thing in Chinese calendar. So it's a real thrill to be asked to do such a prestigious job. Obviously the ultimate client, because they're approved by the King of England.
Yes.
You know, that's like the client from the kind of a dream, really, isn't it? When you're an illustrator, it's a top job, really. So I feel really pleased to have been asked to do that.
And do you get a very specific brief, or are you asked as an illustrator, an artist, and it's a case of, right, we like your work, this is what we'd like you to do, go away and do it and show us what you've got?
Well, the brief is quite constrained anyway, because doing stamps is quite a peculiar thing because they're so small and 4 of them have to work as a set. So the constraints are already built into the actual format of stamps, really, because you can't do massive, great, big, complicated pictures because they won't be reduced down and work very well. And obviously the subject matter is dictated by the actual year. So this year is the year of the snake, and it's the wood snake. That's a kind of the kind of custom to have a different kind of element attached to the snake. So the kind of subject matter dictates and the format dictates, really. So this year I was given not a free hand, but an opportunity to come up with my own ideas. And we like the idea of the prosperity and the transformation and the idea of joy, the words that you'd kind of associate with the new year, and trying to interpret that through the use of symbols and imagery which reflects the kind of positive aspects of the Lunar New Year and what that might bring for people in China and around the world, of course, where people are celebrating the Chinese New Year.
And so is it, you've hinted at it there, but is it a very different approach from the get-go when you get a commission like this for stamps because of the reasons you've just got there? The end product is going to be something which is only going to be an inch or so square.
Yeah,
Do you have to approach it in a very different way?
You have to be really mindful of that. So you're constantly having to make them work as a set so that they kind of connect to each other, but also they need to connect to a set and read at that scale. And although they're really tiny, they've got a lot of information on them. There's a lot of typography on there. The king's head has to be placed on there, the value of the stamp. So all those things have to be factored in when you're designing them. For me, my work is I draw with a pencil and then I scan those drawings in and then colour them digitally with a computer. But the feeling in my work reflects this sort of sense of watercolour, kind of soft colour. And that really kind of relates quite well to a traditional Chinese use of media. So I think although I'm chosen for my actual style, it's also the qualities of the stamps which kind of have a resonance for Chinese culture as well. So there are lots of things which are ingredients, if you like, which would lead to me being chosen, and also which I try to retain when I'm making those artworks. So yeah, the scale really does affect them, but that's kind of quite liberating in one way because you know what you're working with, and it's kind of keep just reducing them down on the computer to see how they're going to look really. And there's a lot of intervention from the post office. There are a lot of committees that have to meet to look at the stamps as well, so a lot of changes have to be made in this set as they're going along. So there's quite a lot of kind of people who are involved in the process really, and obviously ultimately the king has final say on whether or not they're going to be published or not. So there's quite a lot of not stress, but a lot of things to consider that have to be taken into account really.
And is that how it works? Do you have to sort of show them each stage? You don't just sort of go away, come up with a product and say, here you go, this is what I've come up with, what do you think of this? You have to show them each stage of your sort of design process.
Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue really. I think the first idea which I kind of came up with was based on the idea of mythology, and actually that didn't kind of get the green light, so it was kind of a modification after that. And then from that I do drawings which are kind of just quite rough drawings, some visuals to give them an idea, and then that's kind of more of a dialogic sort of process, so people are reacting to that and saying what they think, that what they like, what they don't like, and from that I might come up with a colourway and really trying to make each stamp have its own distinctive identity, so they work as a set but that each one's got its own flavour and its own kind of narrative, its own story really. And the colour and the content is about conveying that story, telling that story through all the elements coming together really. So at each stage, the committees in the post office have to approve those things, and there might be changes that need to be made at each stage as well. So, that's kind of typical really in a lots of process. If you do book jackets or children's books or whatever as an illustrator, you've always got a client or an outsider who's got some perspective on that and obviously offering feedback. And good art direction can really make a project even better because people have ideas or see things in a way that you might not see them yourself, especially if you're working closely on a project. And in this project as well, the designer, Emma Cook, she's fantastic because she's really used to how the elements will change when something's seen small and when it's printed. So her interventions are really useful. She'll sort of say, what about this being a bit of a more blue colour, say, or she might kind of change the position of something to make sure that things will fit together. So it is really much a team effort, even though obviously in the end my name is kind of, and I'm here now talking about it, so it's obviously my illustration, but there are kind of lots of people who are really important in that process.
Do you have to do a lot of research into, or in this case into Chinese culture, the Chinese calendar? Do you, at least from your own point of view as an artist and illustrator, do you have to sort of work doing some research before you actually start the artistic process?
Yeah, I think for me that's one of the joys of the job really of illustration, that I really feel empowered if I understand the topic, and so I really enjoy that process of reading around the subject and trying to bring some of that understanding into the actual artwork. So ultimately people might just like them as nice pictures, and that's one of my aims as well, to be aware of the aesthetic quality, how nice they might look or how decorative they might be or how much people want to look at them. But also there's a kind of series of messages that are built into those, and those messages come from my research, my understanding. So I really like the idea of things having a cultural meaning, so the symbols that are in kind of Chinese artwork are really important. So in the New Year in particular, they have particular flowers or particular colours which have got a sort of meaning embedded in them. So red is really important for the New Year. It sort of symbolises prosperity and hope, and the particular flowers like the plum blossom symbolises prosperity. Water symbolises life and new beginnings. So they're all things that you'd connect as adjectives with the new year when you're feeling optimistic and positive. And it's trying to bring the depiction of those things into the imagery, but also the feelings that those things might kind of bring out in a person. So the research makes you feel confident about which things to choose and how to approach the kind of development of the imagery, really.
Well, they look absolutely gorgeous, and must admit I've only seen the pictures so far, but they are lovely. And as you say, you've got the 4 different themes on this one: harmony, prosperity, hope and renewal, as you've just been hinting at there. And I don't know whether this is your own idea, whether you were asked to do this within the brief, because within prosperity you've got the plum tree you mentioned there, you've got the snake curling round it, and then within the snake you have the Triskelion, the Celtic Triskelion motif. So you've got that link between obviously the Chinese New Year, the Chinese community, and the Isle of Man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when I was kind of asked, to do the snakes, I was like, oh God, people have got really negative feelings about snakes. Some people are afraid of them. They're slimy, scary kind of beasts, really. They're not beautiful beasts. So my aim really is to bring out the positive actually in the subject matter, and to make them decorative makes them much more easy to look at for a start. But with snakes, the patterns are they kind of, it's ambiguous in a way, because the patterns make them easy to hide, but they also make them easy to recognise. And so I wanted to kind of exploit that, take advantage of that really, and have patterns and symbols that make them recognisable as Manx as well as Chinese, really. So it was using the things that you find out about the snake in this instance and using that to my advantage as an illustrator. So yeah, the kind of that snake really wrapped around the trees, bringing prosperity, because it's making it flourish. That's the idea. So the more of those flowers that there are, the more hope there is for the future. So it's kind of a simple idea that I've kind of put together, but trying to kind of convey that in a way that's beautiful. And yeah, it's the idea that you can look into those images and see things, and you might not see them immediately, but they're kind of not concealed in there. They're like a snake, they're hidden in full view, really. So so that's my kind of approach.
They really are miniature works of art. Look out for them. And I suppose I should say at this juncture, Gong Hai Fat Choi, or something like that. I'll be back next week when we'll be hearing about a winter wonderland, among other things. See you then, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Hey, Moo.